I'm going to be sharing my experience of the family law system that I have been in for now. It will be 5 years this December. Yes, I am still in the system, even though our daughter had passed away. I am going to be sharing information that is based on facts and truth, information that is of absolute privilege. I will be posting emails, affidavits, court orders. I am still in a system 5 years later that has absolutely destroyed me. And what I mean by that is emotionally, it has destroyed me. I still suffer from post-traumatic stress around what I had to go up against. All I have to say is if you are not a mentally strong person going into this system, you're not going to get out alive. What I don't understand is, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how our system is there to protect us. That's what it's there for, is to serve and to protect. Yet it does exact opposite. In my opinion, I believe that there are lawyers who should not be lawyers. There are doctors who should not be doctors. There are police officers who should not be police officers. There are judges who should not be judges. And what I'm going to talk about today is the injustices within our system. Just to give you guys an idea of what half of my family law file looked like. This was just half of my file. It's not all of the documents, it's just half of it. Self-representing for the majority. So to give you a little bit of history, I think I mentioned this in my last video. Amari's father and I went our separate ways in October of 2015, 5 years ago next month. The reason for the relationship breakdown was there was absolutely zero trust within the relationship. The emotional affair that he had, actually, it really, really damaged me. You know, I was open to working things out, but it didn't work out, so we had to go our separate ways. And he seemed to be fine with that. He moved back to Edmonton. Amari was here in my home with me. And there were just so many other things, like Amari had so many medical issues. There'd be nights where I would be at the children's hospital with her. Thank God I had amazing friends that were there to support me, and I had an amazing family that was there to support me, but it was extremely, extremely hard. And with the lack of emotional support during that time, our relationship, it broke down, unfortunately. So December 2015, Amari's father obtained a lawyer, and I also obtained a lawyer. And there was an agreement made that Amari's father was to pay me X amount of dollars on an interim basis. So what interim means is for the time being, until we decided to proceed with the courts. That agreement was drawn up, and that was what was set. April 7th, 2017, I was in mediation with Amari's father, his legal representation, my legal representation, to agree upon interim spousal support and child support, because he decided that he no longer wanted to send me any money because he found out I was in a relationship. We entered the family law system, and that's what I'm going to be discussing today. Gavin and Ashley attended mediation with me and their counsel on August 11th, 2017. There is one child of the relationship, Amari, born on August 2013. Unfortunately, Amari has cerebral palsy and requires around-the-clock care. Let me just repeat that. Unfortunately, Amari has cerebral palsy and requires around-the-clock care. This is truth. Amari did require around-the-clock care, and instead of having someone come into my home to provide that around-the-clock care so that I could go back to my job, I decided that I was going to take on that role because she was my daughter. and she was my responsibility. Amari lives primarily with Ashley in the family home. Only Ashley is on the title to the home. Gavin and Ashley were never married, but had a 3-year relationship which ended in 2015. The parties attended mediation today to resolve issues of property division, child support, and adult interdependent support, also known as spousal support. And the reason why I was granted spousal support, even though we were never married, was because of Amari's disability. At the time, I wasn't working. I was trying to work on some business ventures that still allowed me to be there for Amari. And what that looked like was Amari was in daycare, day home, a couple times a week while I worked. And when she was with her father, I would work. Ashley's self-disclosed current monthly income is somewhere between $0 and $300. Gavin's self-disclosed net business income after he has paid expenses for his business is approximately $185,000 a year. No external materials were presented to me to confirm these incomes. Gavin and Ashley were able to come to the following agreement, which is contingent upon Ashley confirming with an accountant by September 15th, 2017, whether or not she will receive approximately $1,244 in benefits from the government, which consists of a quarterly GST rebate and quarterly Alberta Climax Leadership Adjustment rebate, and the Canadian benefit and child disability benefit, and the quarterly Alberta child benefit. Section 10. This was where the concern came in for me. Ashley will pay $30,000 to Gavin by September 30th, 2019 in full and final satisfaction of his claim to the family home. Gavin will be solely responsible for his existing personal and corporate tax debt, which is approximately $45,000. Gavin will solely be responsible for the fees of this mediation. If Ashley discovers after consulting with the accountant that the government benefit she is entitled to is less than $1,244 per month, there is no agreement between the parties, and the parties agree to attend mediation with me on October 20th, 2017 at 10 a.m. to attempt to resolve the issue. Gavin agrees that he will pay the agreed upon amount of $4,000 for September and October until the parties get back to mediation. This is the mediation document, the interim mediation document. So this was never binding. In order for this to be binding, we had to abide by the terms, which none of the terms in this document was even met. So I had contacted an accountant in March, and so I had sent an email to Miss Townley on September 15th. Erin, I'm forwarding you several attachments which will include the following: my financial disclosure, which includes what I receive from the government each month, and income tax summary. I attached an EPO, so emergency protection order, I'll get into that eventually, and claim Family Law Act notice to disclose, because what had happened was we hadn't disclosed financial disclosure in that mediation. I was bringing in very little income at the time because I just started my new business, and it was peanuts. It was not a lot of money because it was a brand new business, and I had nothing to disclose at that time. It says, please notify Gavin of the following: court hearing on September 25th at 9:30 a.m. regarding the emergency protection order because he had assaulted me. Court hearing October 19th at 10 a.m. for child support and spousal support. So what had happened was August 11th we had the mediation. He was supposed to pay me a certain amount of money until I disclosed my financials by September 15th, which I'm doing here. He had not paid that money. So I had filed an affidavit for the courts to enforce that child support and spousal support, because at that time I wasn't receiving money from him, and I had to call my mortgage company and let them know that we are in the middle of a family legal case, and I am not receiving any support payments, so I am going to be defaulting on my mortgage. So I wanted to get the ball rolling. So I said, I ask that Gavin provides all financial disclosure prior to our hearing on the 19th of October. I get an email back saying, Ms. Pettigrew, I'm assuming you are now representing yourself. Kindly confirm same at your very earliest opportunity. We are in receipt of your documents and we will review same in due course. Please be advised that if you have not attended with an accountant prior to September 15th, being today's date, the agreement made at mediation is void. In the event that you have, the agreement shall continue. Kindly advise whether you've met with an accountant as directed at mediation on August 11th, 2017. Please be further advised that there is an EPO in place. Mr. Bozer is not in a position to transfer you support, as that is a violation of the EPO. He is not allowed to contact you directly or indirectly. So because I had an emergency protection order in place, supposedly I was not allowed to receive support payments. I wrote her back and I said, Ms. Townley, I will be representing myself in regards to the aforementioned. I met with an accountant on March 3rd, 2017. I have complied with what was requested months ago. Gavin did not. Please review all of my income tax statements as well as the CDB confirmation from the CRA. Our agreement states that Gavin was to transfer me $4,000 on the 1st of September, which he did not. I request that he transfers me the remaining $3,000 to his sister, and from there I ask that he transfers it to me. So as far as I know, as long as there's a third party involved, it's okay. But at this time, I wasn't receiving any money. And I was getting a little bit, I wasn't receiving any funds. So that part of the agreement was not met in that mediation document. She then replies to me, Ms. Pettigrew, on August 11th, 2017, we agreed you would meet with an accountant to specifically discuss your child tax benefits entitlement. You had until September 15th, 2017 to do so. This was made very clear during the mediation. You have failed to do so. The mediation agreement is now void. All partner support and child support amounts are now void. So this document, this mediation non-binding agreement, according to the lawyer and according to the terms, was void. So that's like taking this piece of paper and ripping it up, because what you need to do after that is go back to mediation and write up a brand new mediation agreement. This is no longer valid. This here, this affidavit, the statement of disclosure, pardon me, was filed on September 14th, 2017. Inside of it, this is my disclosure, inside of it are all of my tax assessments and notice of assessments and all of my information of what I am to receive from the government. All of that is disclosed. I was told by the 15th of September I was to disclose this information that I filed on September 14th. And then I'm being told after I sent it to her on the 15th, that it is not up to par. I'm confused. So I disclosed information, but I'm being told that this wasn't good enough for her and that the document, our mediation agreement, is now void. So I take that as the mediation agreement is now void. I am not going to be receiving any spousal support or child support to take care of Amari. So from there, what I did was I went to the Court of Queen's Bench. I filed an order. And from there, I was provided with a consent order regarding spousal support and child support. And we attended court on the 18th of October 2017, right here. And this says that Gavin was to pay me child support combined child support and alimony on the 15th of each month commencing November 15th, 2017, until further order of the court agreement and an early intervention case conference. So basically, to summarize, April, there was a consent order for interim support. There was a consent order that was granted on May 4th, 2017. We had a 4-way meeting settlement meeting on April 7th, so a day before my father passed away. Okay, from there, we went to mediation in August. Came up with a mediation agreement, an interim mediation agreement that was supposed to be reviewed in October. Between all of that, an EPO was issued, an emergency protection order was issued because Gavin had assaulted me. Between August, September, I hadn't received much spousal support payment. So my whole intent was, let's nip this in the bud. Let's go to court. Let's get all of this sorted out so that we can move forward, so that Amari is cared for in the home, so that we don't have to do this back and forth. So now we are going into, we finally got it settled that starting November going forward, he were to pay this amount. From there, the EPO, September 12th, so April, August, September, October of 2017. So by December 1st, 2017, we were to go to the early intervention case conference. And what that is this is a new thing. I think they just rolled out not too long ago, I think a few years ago, where they deal with high conflict cases. My reasoning to move forward with the EICC was because there was, I had co-signed a boat for Gavin. That was still in my name. That was not put into the mediation agreement. And I wanted to make sure that parenting was set in place. I wanted to make sure that X amount of spousal support combined with child support was provided each month. And that was done. We were able to get that done. And what it did was it replaced the mediation, non-binding mediation agreement between Gavin and I. And since Ms. Townley already said that this document was void, this document was void. Trash. Gone. You're probably wondering why I keep enforcing that, but I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So that was settled on December 1st, 2017. There were a lot of other things that happened in between that last EICC that pretty much said, okay, this is how everything's going. A lot of things, and I'm going to be bringing that up in my next video in regards to child family services. Need to really stay on course with what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to focus on this family law portion of it. That was all set in stone. Now we're going in 2019. I get an email from Gavin's lawyer stating that they are going to pursue with the sale of my home. Here I am confused because I'm thinking, okay, well, why are we selling my home? And it all comes down to this agreement. So basically, they went back to this agreement that I just ripped up that's now void, and they were telling me that as per this agreement, I owe Gavin $30,000. My number one concern was, okay, I don't actually understand where this $30,000 is coming from. So in that mediation meeting, there was no proof of receipt just stating that I owed Gavin $30,000. Say someone owed me $30,000. I would have to actually provide proof of receipt for that amount. But I'm having them come to me, and I'm having Amari's father sue me for $30,000 of my home where his daughter lives in. So not only have I been going back and forth to court, but I'm being sued for $30,000 that I don't have, first of all, when I'm relying solely on his income pretty much to take care of Amari and I, primarily Amari, to make sure she has a home. They come back at me saying that I owe this money. Very, 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 very long story short, this void document was pushed through the courts. It was pushed to the courts to the extent that it was a binding agreement that I owe Gavin $30,000 of the family home. Still to this day, I don't know where that money is coming from. To make matters worse, my case, my 4-year case, was thrown out of the court system and into the hands of arbitration. So the original mediator who was mediating between Gavin and I decided that she was going to take this void document and arbitrate it. Basically say that, no, we're going to take this $30,000 and yes, you owe this money to Gavin. Going through the court system, trying to just get support payments so that I could care for our daughter with special needs because I chose to stay home with her. How did it go from all of that to you owe Gavin $30,000 that we know that you don't have because you rely on him for support payments, but we're going to make it very hard for you to get support payments and you're going to have to go through the courts in order to get that done, to taking that from a void document to enforcing the sale of my home to garnishing my bank account. Amari passed away on March 10th, 2020. March 13th, I get a notice. Notice of intention to sell land. April 14th, 2020, I get a notice. Garnishee summons. All of my money was removed from my bank account on April, I forget what day it was, I think it was the 23rd. I had no money in my account, and about $4,300 of that money that was taken from my account were GoFundMe donations from the community so that I could put that money towards Amari's monument. He took that. May 12th, 2020, I get another notice of intention to sell. September 24th, 2020, I get an email from Miss Townley. Good afternoon, please see attached correspondence enclosed with a balance of what I still owe from the $30,000. I then replied to her and I basically said, okay, I'm like, I will be sending a check to the Court of Queen's Bench on November 1st, 2020. I said the remaining balance will be paid in installments commencing January 21st, 2021 until January 1st, 2023. I get an email saying, unfortunately, this payment plan is not acceptable to Mr. Boser. We are now nearly a year past that date and minimal efforts have been made to pay the agreed upon amount. So minimal, I've paid over 50%, nearly 50% of the amount owed. And that was actually taken from my bank account. And minimal efforts have been made to pay the agreed upon amount, notwithstanding that the agreement of this amount was made over 3 years ago. An agreement that is void. Mr. Boser is not agreeable to delaying payments until January 2023, being 5.5 years after the initial agreement was reached. Mr. Boser requests that you pay the entirety of the outstanding balance on or before November 1st, 2020. And what that means is if I don't pay the entire balance, he has the right to foreclose on my home. I am disgusted with our family legal system. I don't understand it. I was looking at this as not me going into this. I was looking at how am I going to make sure that Amari is taken care of? How am I going to stay in my home that I purchased and to provide Amari with the stability? Why am I fighting this system? Why am I fighting so hard for our rights? And why is it that I'm still fighting 5 years later over a home that housed our daughter? Why? I decided to go on Google, see if there were any reviews around Erin Townley, if I was literally the only one going through this. Was I the only one up against someone with absolutely no moral compass? Was I the only one? Am I crazy? Like, is this normal? And I found some reviews that were quite disturbing, but confirmed everything that I was going through, and I'll read them to you here. The first review that I found said, May 28th, 2019. This woman is terrible to work with. It seems that she easily becomes emotionally invested, rendering her illogical, unirrational, and unprofessional. She will gouge the opposition and foster drama between you and your opposition, just so that she can make more money off you, your never-ending conflict. She will suggest unreasonable methods of compromise and drag out issues unnecessarily. She's like the ugly chick in every mean girls club, has nothing going for her and something to prove. Her work quality is subpar. When she sees a cash cow, she sinks her claws in and doesn't let go. Don't let this be you. Next review. June 28th, 2018. Erin did a horrible job on a simple file. Her work has to be completely redone. She overcharged me for hours but refused to get the invoice revised. I would recommend everyone to stay away from her services. August 2nd, 2020. She is very dark emotionally. I find her to be troubled. Her moods rapidly change. Besides that, she is a bad lawyer. She sent my affidavit to me to review an hour before the deadline to file and asked for my approval immediately, even though I sent her my rough copy a week prior. I did not agree with the changes she made to it because they weren't true. When I protested, she basically said, you must approve this or we don't submit it at all. She is a bully. In my opinion, she should be disbarred for that. Erin Townley is a bully. The worst type. Gavin's a bully, and the system allowed it. That's what's so sick. And what I want to say is that if you are going through something similar, make sure you speak up. It is extremely hard fighting a system, like I said in my last video. It's hard fighting a system that's almost impossible to get through to. But to summarize, there were legal documents that were processed through the system illegally. This is our family legal system. Like I said before, there are lawyers that should not be lawyers. There are doctors that should not be doctors, and there are judges that should not be judges. The only thing that I wish was different in this situation was that the emotional maturity in regards to the co-parenting, it was absolutely disgusting. I miss my baby, my little sunshine, my mama. The system has to change. When you are a parent, a full-time caretaker of a child with special needs, it's almost impossible to go back to work full-time, depending on the severity. A lot of mothers don't, but a lot of parents are still together. I wasn't able to obtain legal aid because I owned a house. Well, I was solely relying on Gavin's income to pay for my mortgage. That doesn't make any sense. The systems need to change. 1, representation for parents with special needs children. There should be free representation for parents who have special needs children because their situations are very unique. 2, I didn't know that I could request a certain judge to take on the case. I was passed around through several different judges. I didn't know that I had that right. Why wasn't I able to obtain free legal advice on what steps I needed to take? Why did I have to fight so hard to try to get spousal support and child support in place? Why? I'm using this opportunity to heal. Speaking helps me heal. It helps me come forward with things that I was ashamed of. And I was ashamed of them because I felt like I was a victim. Every day I wake up, I miss her. She was my best friend, and she was so beautiful. And that little girl, wow. She couldn't talk, she couldn't walk, but she sure made an impact on our system. And unfortunately, she had to suffer for it. Why? That's my question, is why? Why? I want to thank you for hearing me speak.